Global warming, eh?
Yeah. Who thought that up?
Great work, everybody.
Shouldn't it just be called climate change? I'm going to be that person.
Well, I wish that you could get a time machine and go back in time and be that person. And
I know, right?
convince everyone that due to a general warming of the planet, it will lead to all kinds of extreme weather events.
Yes.
Including some cooling.
A lot of cooling.
And a crazy amount of rain and sometimes snow.
Lots of snow.
All part of global warming.
Right.
AKA climate change.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm in snow country.
Because we are in snow country.
Well, no, we would have to be in Japan. Yukiguni.
Oh.
Yukiguni, or snow country, or as it's sometimes known, Gosetsu Chitai, heavy snow area, is an area in northern Japan that is characterized by its heavy and long-lasting snowfalls. These are places that, basically the entire island of Honshu, of course.
Oh, I was going to guess Hokkaido, but Honshu
Well, Hokkaido, yeah, that's what I meant.
Uh-huh.
Get a different letter to start your islands with. And the northern side of Honshu, Toyama, Niigata prefectures, like the northern sides. And then the just along the Sea of Japan.
I mean, that makes sense.
Because you've got Sea of Japan, tropical, hot sea. You got the wind blowing in.
Yep.
Boom, hitting mountains, hitting high altitude, drops all that off, and you get almost continual snowfalls during the winter and fall seasons.
Well, isn't it like this is probably what you're talking about. Isn't it also like weather coming over from China and Russia, like from the mountains and stuff like that? Am I correct on that or no?
I don't know. What language does the snow speak?
I don't know.
Get that out.
I thought there was like some sort of like pressure that all added to all that. I could be wrong, but
wet air generally.
Okay, sure.
Does it? Moist air. That's what does it.
Moist.
It's a sort of, the weather patterns, the movement of the air. This happens, in the Rocky Mountains as well.
Sure.
Air coming in off of the Great Plains gives up when it hits Colorado, Utah, Wyoming. That's why the skiing is so good there. Of course, that's why the skiing is good in Japan as well.
Yes.
Japan holds some records for snowfall, specifically the most snowfall or the most accumulation of snow. 465.4 inches. That's around 39 feet.
Oh my goodness, that's a ton.
In Shiga Prefecture on Mount Ibuki.
Huh.
And the greatest 24-hour snowfall also happened there in 1927 with 90 inches falling, which is about 7.5 feet.
Holy cow. Well, Shiga is Honshu, but it's kind of like in the middle of Honshu. It must be because of the mountains and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was in Shiga Prefecture when I was in Japan for college. But I was, not in the mountainous parts.
Yeah. Well, because you weren't under snow.
Not
and
that much snow.
And you didn't have to enter a building from the second story, as some buildings are designed to do.
What?
In that area.
Please explain.
Because you just expect the snow to make it to floor 2. And so you just have a door on floor 2.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Is this, okay, correct me if I am wrong. This is what I am imagining. There is a door on the second floor, and during the summer months, there's just a random door on the second floor that you don't use. But in the winter months, when there's enough snow, you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to go in my second floor door. Is that what's going on?
More or less.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just have a wall of snow, and you just expect that you're going to drive down the road. You got to dig the road out of the snow, and the snow is the scenery.
I hope that
Yukiguni.
I hope that people have places they can park. Do they have snow emergencies in Japan?
you're one to talk. People will live in some weird places, and
Yeah, I know.
it's just some idiot was just like, oh, this is it. Stop right here.
I know.
And he may or may not have had horns on his helmet. Uh, historians
who
have debated that. But yeah, it gets pretty snowy. It's not much of a location for a shore leave.
Oh.
Maybe you're seeing the sights, what there is to see. You're seeing snow monsters, maybe.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like a Yeti or something like that?
No, snow monsters are a phenomenon where snow and ice accumulate due to wind.
Okay.
Over very, very small things. Perhaps a small tree, a
Sure.
small little stick, even a rock will just make reverse stalactites, essentially, and you'll have fields and hillsides that are just populated by what looks like, snowmen from hell, completely naturally created by the wind and the snow.
You just gave me chills.
They call them snow monsters. Or Juhyo.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yukiyoma? Yoma Yuki? Maybe?
Yuki no Yoma, probably.
Yuki no Yoma.
Yeah.
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 But we're taking a shore leave nonetheless because we have to, especially now as we at this time are hunkering down within our own snow cave.
Snowed in.
To wait out the elements and hope that one day that sun returns.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Thimble Winter in the Norse mythology tradition. I'm thinking of...
What is Thimble Winter?
Thimble Winter.
What is it?
That is the winter that will precede Ragnarok.
Oh, does it last a really long time?
Yeah. Until the end of Ragnarok.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's what we have like every year.
When brother will fight brother and sister will fight sister.
Okay.
So watch out with your brothers and sisters. But yeah, we're trying to get over that, and we're here to talk about some of our favorite Japanese topics.
Yes.
How did Game of Thrones work? It just doesn't. They don't. There's no winter. They don't have polar bears or penguins because winter is infrequent. So they have a world that just exists in like a temperate time. God knows if they have seasons, and then every once in a while it becomes winter. And they try to predict when winter will come. A lot of people say winter will come.
Right.
And winters do come, but then they recede after months or some years.
Right.
And so you have to be ready for when winter comes.
Was this just like, did George R.R. Martin just live somewhere that was cold and he was like, gosh, I wish it wasn't winter all the time?
He lives in the desert.
You're right.
So no.
I
know that for sure.
But it's weird, though, in Game of Thrones because the Starks, like, I feel like they're constantly wearing furs.
Well, they live, I mean, it's still cold. There's still latitudes.
Yeah.
So the north is colder than, but even at the beginning of the series, they're just wearing, like, light furs. Just a fall sort of fur. And there's wolves and stuff like that in the greenery. So, but when it gets really cold, then it's really cold. And then the zombies.
Yeah.
And the zombies come. It reminds me of, Frank Herbert when he was writing Dune. He was drawing on his experience working for like the Park Service. And he worked in, I think it was Oregon.
Okay.
But like on the beaches, like the dunes.
Okay.
So he saw a lot of sand. And that's where he got his idea of like, what if you had to just like live, in a place that was only sand? What would that look like?
Right. I mean, it's a good thing that Darth Vader wasn't there because you know how much he hates sand. So,
yeah.
All right. Sorry. Yeah. Moving on.
I saw a thing that was like, what if he meant to say sand people, but he stopped himself because he's actually a racist. I hate sand. It gets everywhere. It's always taking your job.
Oh my God.
And then he had to just ride that out. So, because Padme would be like, oh, let's, they're having a party at the beach, but I told him we didn't want to go because of the sand. And he's like, yeah, the sand. Yes, I hate sand.
I mean, I could see that because he is racist, right? I don't know.
Is he?
That's never confirmed. He's just going to the dark side. So we don't know if he's racist or not. He's just feeling evil right now.
I don't know. I haven't finished Andor yet. The
No,
Star Trek shows. Yeah, whatever. It's just a Star thing. I don't even know anymore. Star Tours, Star Search. The Star Search show that brings real world politics into Star Wars.
Yep.
It's a fantasy, and people want to like make it like real, but the realer it gets, the less fun it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Rian Johnson ran into this when he made The Last Jedi, and he's literally talking about like the Empire having child slaves and things like that.
Right.
And who they don't free at the end of the movie. They're like, oh, child slaves, too bad. Let's free these weird ostrich creatures. That's fine. And then they just leave Broom Boy for a life of slavery and solitude.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And then like Stuttering Sam, the arms dealer, is like, I sell. I'm not going to do the stuttering. I sell weapons to the Republic and to the Empire. Which is worse? I don't know. One of them's dressed like Nazis. They got big red banners, black symbols on them.
Yeah.
But you're right. There is definitely an equivalency there.
Right.
Oh, and they fly now.
What it reminds me of, like, was it Trump? There's good people on both sides. No.
That was before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably.
No, wait. When was Last Jedi? 2017. It's important that I know this. I think it was 2018.
Okay. I honestly can't remember. It's
2017. I'm right. I'm always right. So it was basically before that. That was, or it might have been written before that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't think Johnson's a message guy.
No, that isn't the message that I've gotten from Johnson.
You'll notice that, what's the message of the Knives Out movies? Rich people are dumb and bad. Well, we all know that one.
Yeah.
And then his new Peacock show, I don't think there's any messages at all.
No.
What's the message of the Brothers Bloom?
I don't
Japanese
know.
women love Campari. Do you want to talk about what you want to talk about for our shore leave?
Yeah, I do. Although it's not happy news. And
great.
If you are a fan of our podcast, Just Enough Trope, you'll be familiar with how we almost always start our show these days with RIPs. So, but this is a big one. I feel like we should recognize it. Famous mangaka Leiji Matsumoto has passed away on February 13th due to acute heart failure, and he was 85 years old. He was the creator of such manga as Space Battleship Yamato, Space Pirate Captain Harlock, and Galaxy Express 999.
All of which are completely interchangeable in my mind.
I know.
They're all in space.
They are.
People in trench coats. There's maybe a train or something.
Yeah.
And somebody's got a scar on their face.
I know. I mean,
I know that they're distinct, but in my uneducated brain, haven't reached those in animatification yet. I'm like, I couldn't tell them. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup.
I thought we watched Yamato, but I don't think we've watched the other two yet. So
no, we've watched the Legend of the Galactic Rangers or whatever it's called.
Oh, I don't know why I thought we'd watch that one.
Any of those? Okay.
But I'm pretty sure they're on our list, and if they aren't,
we watched a couple things that were sort of inspired by Harlock.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking of. But especially like a Galaxy Express 999, I just feel is especially iconic. But so a lot of people think of him as being the mangaka who was basically who was like a big, huge force of the science fiction anime of the 70s, which just kind of exploded, right? But like he was kind of the mangaka pioneer of that. A lot of people consider him to be that way. I mean, it's also a lot of these shows were some of the first anime that were translated into different languages, and went to different countries and that sort of thing, especially English speaking audiences. Yamato was localized in English, and its title was Star Blazers. So they changed the title for it for some reason. But so he actually in 2003, there was a creation of the Japanese-French co-production Interstellar 5555. Likes repeating numbers for some reason. Which was an hour-plus combination of Matsumoto's supervised and inspired anime imagery paired with Daft Punk's Discovery album. Yeah. Exactly. So, I think it's really interesting, and he was a very inspirational guy, and I think he was pretty active. It just seems like he was like a presence, The
Leiji verse.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they all kind of seem like they're connected. I don't know if they actually, there is at least one character who shows up in at least 2 of the series. So
Captain Munch.
Confirmed. Yeah, right. Captain Munch. Exactly. So one thing that fans have been doing, I know you and I know this because we watch a YouTuber called Solo Travel Japan, who I love. I'm going to give him a plug. Goes on a lot of ferries. But there's a couple of train stations in Japan that have statues of, the famous characters that Matsumoto created. Largely from Galaxy Express 999, but a couple, I think, from others as well.
Yeah. There's one of Meiteru at Kokura Station.
Yeah, and I think that she actually, there's a couple of her. She's a pretty popular character.
They like blonde ladies.
Yes, I know. But
big generalization coming.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so a couple of them are near Oizumi Gakuen Station, and it's Meteru and Tetsuro, who are both in 999, and Tetsuro is the little boy that she travels with. And something that fans have been doing is they have been leaving flowers in Matsumoto's remembrance at the statues, and they've largely at the station at Oizumi Gakuen, they've largely been putting flowers in Tetsuro's hands or leaving them on the bench next to him. And they've been doing this with the statues like all over Japan. It's been really interesting. So these ones near Oizumi Gakuen are in Narima Ward in Tokyo, and that's one of the places that he lived. He moved to Tokyo to pursue being a mangaka, and he's originally from Fukuoka, and that's where some of the other statues are.
There's like an anime park there.
Yeah.
Of different statues.
Yeah.
Not just his work.
And there's a Meteru sitting on a bench outside of one of the stations in Fukuoka, and people are also leaving flowers there. And it's just, I've seen some pictures. It's very interesting because, she has her arms just kind of like on her lap, and she's sitting on a bench that you can actually sit on.
Yeah.
And people are putting the flowers underneath her arms because you can actually, there's some space there. So, people are being pretty considerate about, it's just kind of moving. And yeah, and there's also a Harlock statue that they're sticking flowers through, like, I think it's actually like his sword hilt, in between his sword hilt and his body. They just, here's a bouquet of flowers. We miss you, thinking of you, that sort of thing.
There's at the airport, they've got Maytel or the character on manhole covers too.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's really cool. It's very colorful. And I found the character that's the Munch character, Tochiro, who appears both in 999 and Harlock, and he's like this little guy, he's very small in a trench coat and a big hat, and like you can't really see his face. Yeah. So, yeah, there is a universe, here, and largely space and train based, but
space train based.
Yeah, space train based. But I think that it's really, I think he had a very supportive team with him. His official Twitter account announced his passing, and I'll read the quote. They say, on February 13th, 2023, manga artist Leiji Matsumoto departed from a Tokyo hospital on a journey to the Sea of Stars. We would like to sincerely thank all the fans, why am I crying, who have supported him over the years. We'll meet again at the far off point where the wheel of time touches, he always said. We will believe in those words and look forward to that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he was well loved and he'll be missed. He was from Fukuoka, and yeah, the central. I thought it was the station that they the central town there, the ancient city is Kokura, and
it is Kokura Station. Yeah.
Yeah, and in World War II. More sad news. When they wanted to drop the bomb on Japan, Kokura was like the first target that they picked over Hiroshima. But the weather was bad, and so it would have complicated dropping the bomb, and also they wanted to see the effects and everything. So they moved on to their backup target.
Right.
So to this day, there's a myth about the luck of Kokura.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Hey, thank God it's rainy here.
I know. Thank God for this cloud covering.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of love for him, and he will, like you said, he'll definitely be missed. And if you ever do go to Japan, you can seek out these statues and leave some flowers for him if you want.
It's interesting that his name is romanized as Leiji, although it could be Reiji, I suppose. It's that indeterminate thing.
You could pronounce it that way. Yeah, Reiji. Yeah, you're right.
I always wonder how, and I don't know if that is like they just hit the L harder, or if that's because that's not his name. His name is Akira. So when he picked that name, he's like, no, we're going to do it the L.
Maybe,
or if that's a choice that's made by a translator or a localizer. It's
but
a tough
that would be a weird choice
decision
to be made by a translator, localizer.
Well, translators make tough decisions all the time. Sometimes they make decisions so tough, they decide to quit their jobs. Viz Media obviously has a whole raft of people who are translating Japanese manga for other markets, specifically English markets. And recently, a Viz Media translator up and quit his job because what he was translating was too tough to do.
What?
Shonen Jump has a manga that is, I'm sure, being collected, but it's also being published in the pages of Shonen Jump.
Yep.
Called Cypher Academy.
Okay. And
it is a series written by Nisio Isin, who is the writer behind Monogatari.
Okay.
Which we did talk about on Animification. And it follows a teenager who goes to Cypher Academy, the titular school.
Sure.
And the battles at Cypher Academy, because you got to have blue hair and you got to have battles.
Of course.
Revolve around puzzle games. Like puzzle games, word games. We've pointed out before the Japanese love of puns and, playing with words and puzzles and things like that. And this is like they're weaponizing this.
Of course.
Well, the translator, his name is Kumar Sivasubramanian, and he had been publishing or translating it for a little while. But in the most recent story, in chapter 10, he had to translate a lipogram-based puzzle.
What is a lipogram?
A lipogram is a work of text in which you eliminate some element that would normally be there. So, for instance, you could, there is an entire novel, a French novel called A Void, and it is by Gilbert Adair, and it does not contain the letter E.
Oh my God.
And so that's all well and good in French. But when you translate that into English, normally they'd say, le croissant. Bad choice. No E, and we use that word.
Yeah.
But if your word
Louvre.
was something like Louvre, well, that's
that's a
proper.
name. That's a proper noun.
We're not going to try to search for one. Don't bother. If you were going to translate something like croissant, you would go, well, that obviously means this. But if the thing that it means is bread, you're in trouble because you want to keep the spirit of what the lipogram is. So you can't use E. So it becomes a work of art in itself to translate that work.
Got it.
And so what Kumar the translator had to do was translate a Cypher battle between two characters where they're having a conversation about topics, and it's specifically other manga. And so the person would ask them a question, and they would have to reply. And the questions posed would not contain specific, phonemes from Japanese.
Oh my goodness.
And then the replies would be the same. And so, what a exciting and action-packed manga this sounds like. But anyway, and so in this particular thing, they would say like, all right, do Dragon Ball. And then they would say, a, I, O, kaku, koshi, like all the things that you can or can't use. And basically he had to just give up because he doesn't have a year to find the exact right things. And so what he did, he completed the issue, but what he basically did and worked out with editorial was, I'm just going to translate these as close as possible. So they put the original Japanese romanji in there, and then he translated it as best as possible, trying to avoid certain sounds, but just doing it in English and not getting it perfect.
Yeah.
So like the students' answer to the Dragon Ball thing was Kamehameha, the secret art and salvation is Gohan an old man or a son or a big eater. Like it doesn't, like they just became English because he didn't have the time to make it also make sense, and then you'd have to either use the same phonemes from Japanese that you were eliminating,
right,
or pick some equivalent in English. Like if she, means a couple different things, death is one of them, right?
Right.
So then if the word's going to be death, then you can't use death or something. You'd have to say expired or something like that. And he was just like, no, okay, I have a new kid. I'm going to quit this. I quit.
Honestly,
and it sounds really frustrating.
Can I be honest?
And I don't think he quit out of spite. He just,
No.
He was interviewed, this is a story in Kotaku that I saw. He was interviewed by it, and he's like, I just can't do this and he had actually left a manga a month ago, or like a couple months ago, for a similar reason. He was translating something called Mission Yozakura Family. And he wasn't able to, and this wasn't over this very esoteric kind of point. It was more just he lives in Australia, and he wouldn't get the pages for the manga until like Saturday, like the weekend, because I think they mail them. I don't think that they're digital, so they don't leak, right?
Okay, sure.
And so he was, he's just like, I can't. There's not enough turnaround time, so I need a different project.
When did he have to get them in? Monday?
Probably something like that. If it publishes on, Tuesday or Wednesday,
that's not enough
or releases
time.
there, yeah. So he was saying like, I had to be up all night, and I just had no weekend, and so it's like, could I have another project? And they gave him this project, which was going swimmingly until, oh my God, no, I can't do this.
Well, I mean, yeah.
The thing about the funny thing about Cypher Academy is that he would actually get the pages like weeks ahead of time.
Okay.
Like he would get roughs.
Okay.
Because remember, this isn't just like, we're going to make something and then, let's publish it. And then people like it. I don't know. Like, this is a whole machine.
Of course.
Viz Media has an American office. And so the whole thing goes boom, 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 boom. So he would get the roughs and the scripts beforehand. And even getting the script, he's like, I can't. This is going to be like my whole month. I can't do this.
Right. Well, I mean, I got to say, I don't really blame him. And I think that what he came up with was fine. And I think that what you could also do as a translator, which I often do, is have like a translator note either on that page or in the back and just be like, hey, look, this isn't exactly how the game was done. And this is X, Y, and Z, you know?
And they often do that. And they, in this piece in Kotaku, they were talking about like the work of the writer or the editor, doing that sort of thing, saying, because when you localize something, you have to explain in Japanese. Sometimes they do this, and so that's what's going on here.
Right, but it would just be cultural things that you can't completely translate.
But you would be selling another book that goes with the magazine you just bought to explain all those things.
Yeah,
there's another panel that somebody shared on Twitter from Cypher Academy, and it's like the two characters, and it's just it's like a two facing pages. And it's like the one character and the other character. Mm-hmm. And it's just a list of like 47 different sentences in Japanese on one side.
Oh my
and then
God.
they must have like made their own word balloon to go on the other side. And it's like, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? What month and day were you born? What's your father's occupation? It's all these questions. And then the next two pages are another facing page where the character is like, I'm 161 centimeters tall. I weigh 48 kilograms. My birthday is this.
Oh my goodness.
And so, it's just literally just, completely. And then also, I assume, omitting in the lipogram style, whatever it is that they're not allowed to use. So let's just close this school. Cypher Academy, not taking any more students.
No more. Yeah, we're shutting down. I wonder if part of the appeal of reading this manga is for the reader to figure out the lipograms on their own.
Yeah. I think that's a part of it.
Do you think like people do people write in their manga with a pencil for this?
Well,
or do they have like scratch paper?
It doesn't look like a workbook. There's no blanks.
Right.
But I bet there is a build up to the puzzle so that as a reader you can put it down and before you get to the end of the story and then go, okay, is it this? Is it this? Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Somebody in the comments of the tweet that I was talking about before said, oh, dude, you got to check out the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You.
What?
And it is...
It's a lot of reallys.
He posts a meme in meme format, two facing pages, which is on the left side, on the right side, because that's the first page in Japanese.
Right.
There's like... maybe 40% is a vertical slice of a character, and then the rest of that part and the entire facing page are just block Japanese characters. Just boom, straight down.
Oh my goodness.
Like the Renee Zellweger speech from Down with Love. It's just, this character's just going to talk. And then at the bottom, there's three characters, and one character's like, professional writers. Oh, the editorial of the manga. Oh, the translators. Ah!
Yeah, no freaking kidding. That's, yeah. Is it all like that? I mean, that just sounds...
I don't know.
More like a light novel, what I assume is a light novel, or...
I think a light novel might have less text. I think it might be like, framed in the center of the page and have illustrations. This is just like, boom, Chinese newspaper.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is just like a novel.
The Chinese want ads.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Weird.
Because I'm me, and because I think it's important, I need to bring up one aspect of this story. Before essentially resigning, and I hope just asking for another project that he can work on that fits his schedule.
Yeah.
Siva Subramanian, the translator, offered Viz Media two conditions to continue being the series' English translator. A much higher page rate.
Yeah.
That means how much he gets paid, and working a book schedule instead of a weekly schedule. So at this point, he delivers X amount of pages or whatever per week, and he's just asking I get the book, and then I just turn the book around, within a certain amount of time.
I think
so
that's
instead
fair.
of having a certain page rate, he is getting a page rate, but I'm just saying, page per book, books and pages. And they said no. And so he's like, okay, I quit then.
I mean, I think that what he asked for is reasonable. I wonder if just like how, I mean, well, we've talked about the anime industry and we've just kind of, you know, how tough that is. Yeah. And I think we've just kind of generally talked about how tough it is to be a mangaka and everything. But I wonder if part of the system, you know, being in Shonen Jump, and I don't know how, is that monthly? I don't even know. Or weekly. It's weekly.
Weekly Shonen Jump.
So that means that they're doing, like, the mangaka is doing, like, a chapter a week. And I wonder if doing a whole book would just put the entire, you know, English translation on hold, or they wouldn't be able.
I don't know if there's. Okay, like this is a nerd show, but I'm not this much of a nerd. I don't know if there's an English version of Shonen Jump. Probably.
I think
in the 90s. I'm sure in the 90s there was.
Yeah, there was in the 90s.
Is there still one? I don't know.
I don't know.
Or is it digital? I could see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. It would just be, instead of it coming out weekly, it would come out in a volume or something like that instead. And that would be fair. But Viz wants to translate the entire thing. Somebody else is going to take this job. I don't know how they're going to do it.
I know. It's going to be hard.
And we also don't know about the lead time from the creator's perspective. You know, you say that he's working weekly, or they are working weekly.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if they're ahead of schedule. You know, I don't know if because how do they invent the puzzles and crank them out? So it could be that they
might be ahead.
There are breaks in between issues because the guy's got to catch up with his own writing. It's all, you know, this is all things that you have to consider, you know, in a creative production that is, you know, on a schedule. But if this guy, it's like what he's being asked to do is crazy. And I think it's completely understandable for him to ask for more money. He said, quote, "I'm not a genius like the people who translated Perec." This is the Absence or whatever, the French novel I was talking about before.
Okay, got it.
As a wordsmith and a translator, like he's making references. He's like, oh, it's not like the French guy. Obviously, you know, the famous novel, Avoid.
Right.
Given the time and financial leeway to spend time on it, I might be able to tackle those puzzles in some form beyond. Well, this is based on Japanese linguistics, grammar, can't translate it. The higher-ups of Viz weren't willing to do that, so that's when I begged to be let out early. So he's even like putting his professional pride at stake, because he could just say to Viz, look, this isn't something you can translate. I'm sure you've run into this before. We'll just run it in the original Japanese, and then we can explain what it says. Or I don't know, you probably use Google Lens these days or Google Translate, right? But he's saying, like, I want to do my job as a translator. I don't. It would be a day off for me to just flip the script and literally just put the Japanese down and go, it's just this. You know,
figure it out.
He wants to do his job,
of course,
but he just doesn't have the time to do it in this window. And cheap, fast, and done well. You know, pick 3 of those or pick 2 of those. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think he deserved more money too. I think that was completely reasonable. So that's disappointing that Viz didn't take him up on that. Yeah, well, I hope he finds another job translating. You know, when you first brought this up, I was like, when is this guy quitting over it being too tough to translate? This sounds... And then, I, you know, by the end of the story, I'm totally on his side. I completely see his viewpoint. So, yeah, it's... I don't know. I wish it wasn't such a high, it's such a fast turnover rate for churning manga out. I think as manga fans, we don't necessarily think about all the effort that goes into, you know, translation and everything.
Yeah. So he is at Kumar Prime on Twitter if you want to follow him. I don't know. Maybe he's also, he's got a podcast. He's got Comic Book Movie Oblivion and Deconstructing Comics podcast. All right, 2 podcasts. Calm down. But he's probably got a Patreon or something like that.
That's a good idea.
So yeah, maybe support him. I don't know. But interesting story. A look behind the curtain about how the things that we enjoy get made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I remember. I mean, of course, this was in the 90s, right? Nako Takeuchi talking about how quickly they had to, she had to turn pages in and everything. And like,
well, we know that she got them there quick.
She did.
Beep, beep.
Yeah, I know. And then I don't know if this was how it was originally, but at least as it got popular and it went on, she had a whole, team of other people, artists who were assisting, like doing like backgrounds and that sort of thing to assist in getting the pages out a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So. And
yet we still consider her to be the creator.
She is the creator.
I know. I know. But people are like, well, okay, I'm going to start with a bad one, and then we can move to a good one.
Okay.
People are like, James Patterson hasn't touched a typewriter in 25 years. Like he's, got a whole stable of people doing stuff.
Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got something like Alexander Dumas père, who co-wrote the Three Musketeers with somebody, but we only say that Alexander Dumas wrote it.
Right.
Now, to be fair, the other guy was mainly a researcher because Alexander Dumas was not a historian, which is weird because he wrote a lot of historical novels. But at the same time, if you wanted to sit down and write a novel about the Napoleonic Wars, you're not going to necessarily get a European history, a 19th century degree. You're going to go to the internet. And Alexander Dumas didn't have the internet. He had a lot of things, but he didn't have the internet. And so we don't really credit that guy as the author. But then later on, if you look at some of his later work, he had an entire shop working for him.
Right.
So at some point, you're going, yeah, and then this guy's going to do that. And the guy will go, whoa, I don't think so. Oh, look out. You're my father. All right, now just run with that. And then if somebody else writes that, is that an Alexander Dumas book? Or is it part of the Alexander Dumas family publishing house?
Right. Right.
Although he did have a fast chariot, though. Beep, beep, clop, 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 clop.
Nice,
clop,
I like it.
Oh, he goes, that's fast.
It's
red, too.
I mean, Nako, I know, and I understand what you're saying, and I think she is closer to Dumas than Patterson, but she created the characters. The story was hers. She did, like, all the character drawing. It was just, like, and for the background stuff, she would tell people, okay, this is where I want this, and this is what I want, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's her baby.
It's her baby.
It's all on her, including Sailor Moon Supers. So let's move on to
that's the animators, okay? I'm going to continue to push that. You one day, maybe you'll read the manga and you'll see. You'll understand how much they changed and how much worse they made it. So.
Oh, she's a producer, though. Her name's on it.
But they didn't really work with her that much on the anime. She was not consulted that much, and she didn't like a lot of the choices that they made.
But she did. She had input into some of the choices.
Not a lot.
All right, fine, whatever. Did you mention that most of Matsumoto's work was anti-war?
I don't think I did. No.
It was. In that way where, it's about war, but it's about, the horrors of war. I mean, he wrote in the Battlefield comics sort of genre, but it's depicting, the tragedies of war. And, of course, his life was affected, as we have spoken about, by war in Japan as well. So, born in 1938.
Yep.
An exciting time in Japan.
It is an exciting time. Geez, growing up being very small at that age would be challenging, I feel like, in Japan.
Grave of the Fireflies. Check it out. So thanks for tuning in for our shore leave, even though it's the shores of the Arctic Sea, but we're trying to keep it as warm as possible. Warm us up by joining us on our Discord or on our social medias. We've got a link to our Discord in our show notes. And we've got links to our social medias at the various places. We'd appreciate it if you'd stop by and we'll talk about some nerd stuff. Why not? Yes. And if you want to make this show harder, better, faster, and stronger, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/Sailor Noob. I was thinking, maybe we could do a Sailor Cinema. There's got to be like a Harlock movie or something like that.
Yeah.
let's not do that. Let's wait till it comes up in Animatification and just have this be our tribute to Leiji, because I learned my lesson the hard way when I sat down the other night to watch Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway.
Yes.
It's the best one.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, clearly, as a movie, they're going to explain everything that's happening here. I had no clue what was going on the entire time. The robot fights were cool, but I don't know who Mafty is and Kenneth and all these other people that I'm supposed to know who have all been beloved characters for 35 years. Absolutely no clue. So I don't want to get caught in that situation. And we'll just, we'll talk about Yamato or Harlock when it's organically
it's like
comes up.
The complete other end of the spectrum of talking down to the audience. It's like, well, you guys, you know.
Hey,
why explain?
I'll give them this. They trust their audience.
Yes, exactly.
In this movie that just shows up on Netflix and is like, check it out. It's like, okay, Netflix has never steered me wrong. I don't want to be like, who's this kid in the trench coat with the hat? I don't know who this is.
I know.
But yeah, join us where we talk about the live-action Sailor Moon series, our podcast Animatification, where we talk about first episodes of animes. Mm-hmm. Just talked about Gurren Lagann.
Yes.
That was pretty great.
Yeah.
And Humotu Umaru-chan.
Yeah, which is also
pretty fantastic.
Fantastic. 100% recommend.
All of that at patreon.com/Sailor Noob. And I think that's it for our episode of Shore Leave. We'll be back beginning of next month. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it'll be a little warmer.
Yes.
And we're getting warmer as we plunge into the stinky depths of Sailor Moon Supers. The S is for it stings.
Oh my God.